that. Why is it important for us since we are in the pathway of lab? Because it seriously boosts our CV, and it makes a great platform to be able to have your first job. It gives you some talking points to talk about in your first interview. The job I got in London, we just talked about for 10 minutes on my audit topic. And that is what impressed them, because they knew that nobody from India or Pakistan or from the any IMGs, they don't do an audit. So they were impressed how I was able to do it. So I hope with this topic, you should be able to do an audit of your own, right? So yes, what is the definition? First, I will read the standard definition, which is it can be described as a quality improvement cycle that involves measurement of the effectiveness of healthcare against agreed and proven standards for high quality, and taking action to bring practice in line with these standards so as to improve the quality of care and health outcomes. Now, I understand this is a very mouthful and wordy definition, but please do remember these 4 lines. In every interview that you will have, they will ask you, what do you understand by clinical governance? What is the definition of an audit? And if you just repeat this verbatim, they're definitely going to be impressed. Now, to understand it in simple terms, it is basically a process by which we can compare the existing clinical practice with the standard. So what is a standard? A standard is something which is set by the guidelines. It can be any local guideline, any national guideline, or NICE guideline. Now, since we are IMGs, we don't have any local guidelines. We usually follow US guidelines or UK guidelines. But even if you have any guideline in your hospital, you can freely use that, right? So this is the definition. You look at any guideline. For example, a patient with myocardial infarction, is that patient getting aspirin or not? Right? Because in the guideline, it will be mentioned that the patient should be given aspirin. So what do? You just go to your emergency department, you look at the patients with myocardial infarction, you just look if they're getting any aspirin or not. If they are not, that becomes your audit. That is your clinical gap, and that is where you can do the quality improvement. So this is the basic definition. Now let's move on. Another important topic, what is the difference between clinical audit and research? Many people confuse this because audit, it just aims to compare with the existing guidelines. You know the topic, you have all the literature, you are not aiming to find something new, which is what you do in research. You find out new information. And the another plus point why you can do an audit on your own is it does not require any ethical clearance. The greatest hurdle for doing research in your hospital is getting the approval from the ethical committee or the research committee, which takes a lot of time, but you don't usually require that in audit, right? And the audit is very specific, and you design that, you pre-design it. Like if you're looking at only myocardial infarction patients or pulmonary embolism patients, and you cannot just transfer the settings to other hospitals, because every out of 100 patients, 90 patients could be getting aspirin for myocardial infarction in your hospital, but it could only be 60 patients in some other hospital. Whereas the research, it is universal. If you find something, for example, a new drug which is effective in myocardial infarction, it will always be true irrespective of the nationality or any geographical region. Now, I hope this is clear. So we'll just do 2 questions, and Julia will let me know what the majority thinks. Does platelet-rich plasma improve the longevity of skin grafts? Is this topic a research or an audit? Please type in. Julia, please let me know what the majority thinks.
Majority says research.
All right, perfect. I'm so happy because it is research. You're trying to find out new information. And the question 2, is INR being checked for patients on warfarin?
Majority says audit.
Perfect. All right. So I think you have all got the you have all grasped the difference between audit and research by now. Okay, let's move on. Right. So first, I'll introduce the stages and we'll go deeper as the slides progress. So in simple terms, an audit has 6 steps. Step number one is you identify the issue or the topic. Then you have to define your standards. We will go in further details how to do that. And after you define your standards, you collect your data. Then you compare that data with the standard, and then you find some gap, and then you implement change, and then you again do an audit, which is your second cycle re-audit. This is the cycle. So let's talk about the previous example only, giving aspirin in patients with myocardial infarction. So you have identified the issue, that are the patients with myocardial infarction given aspirin or not. Now you have to obtain or define standards. So what you will do now is you will look for any guideline on myocardial infarction. It can be anything, any guideline, a nice guidelines, your local guidelines, anything. And suppose the guidelines mention that every patient with myocardial infarction have to be given 300 mg of aspirin within 1 hour. So this will become your standard, right? This is what you will measure against. Now, third topic will be to collect the data. Now, what you will do is just simply go to the emergency department or look at the patient records, find out all the patients with myocardial infarction and see what was the dose of aspirin which was prescribed and if it was given in 1 hour or not. Now, what you will do is you will see this data against the standard. You will see out of 100 patients, only 60 patients were given aspirin, right? So this will become your comparison. Now you will look at the reason behind this. Why are those 40 patients not given aspirin? Is it because the junior doctors do not know about the guideline, or was the aspirin in shortage? Whatever it is, you will find out what was the reason behind it, and you will then implement that change. What does that mean? Suppose junior doctors who were in the shift, they did not know that aspirin 300 mg has to be given within 1 hour. So what do? You simply re-educate. You hold a departmental meeting. You will teach them about the role of aspirin, right? And then what you will do, you will wait for, let's say, 6 weeks, and then you will again do a re-audit. And this time you will see that out of 100 patients, 90 patients got the aspirin. So basically you have improved the service, right? This is your complete audit in a nutshell. Let's move on. Now we are going deeper. So the main stages of the clinical audit process are: first, selecting a topic; second, agreeing the standards; then collecting the data; then analyzing the data against standards; then you analyze those results and you think about what is the reason why it is not being performed. And then you discuss what change you can perform. And then with your team, you implement those changes. Now, point 8 is very important. You have to allow time for changes. You cannot just implement a change. For example, you cannot just hold a meeting today and then start pre-audit from tomorrow. You have to give it some time for the changes to take place. And after that, you will collect your second set of data and do the audit again. So after you have done the audit twice, which is your closed loop 2 audit cycle, that is bare minimum which is required in every portfolio, whether for medicine or surgery. You have to do at least 2 cycles. After you have done that, you have to discuss. You have to write about your reflection. What did you learn from your audit? You have to feeding back the audit results and discuss whether the practice has improved or not. Right? This is A to Z of audit. Now, this is where this webinar is different, because you can find so many webinars, so many books on audit, but an audit which basically defines the problems that we as IMGs face, right? So our problems are, we cannot decide a topic. So when you are in UK, there is an audit committee. If you don't know the topic, you can simply go to the committee and you can ask, do you have any open audit, or is there any topic that you would like me to do? And they will help you with the topic. But since we don't have any committee or any supervision, we cannot find a topic on our own. Now, second, again, goes hand in hand. We cannot find supervision. Third, the process seems too complicated, right? But as you saw, it's only 6 steps. It's not that complicated. Now, question 4, how to decide on the sample size. I have been asked this question many times. I'll just tackle it right here. Sample size does not matter. You can do an audit with 10 patients. You can do it with 1,000 patients. It's up to you, and depending on the topic, how rare or common the disease is. So don't fret about this. Now, next is, what evidence should we provide to prove that we have done an audit? Now, this is not tricky. When you have a consultant who has seen you do an audit, they can just get a letterhead and get it written down by the consultant that your name, you were involved in designing and implementing an audit, and you completed 2 cycles, and at the end get it signed by him with a stamp. So this should work because we don't have an audit committee, we don't have proper performers, and this evidence worked for me and it will work for you as well. This is a very simple evidence. Okay, so before doing audit, what is a prerequisite? You have to be doing job because this is a clinical audit. You need to see. And if you don't have a job, you should be willing to collaborate with any of your friends who is working. So what you can do is, if you're not working, your friend can collect the data from the hospital and you can prepare the audit report, do the analysis, and you can think why it is not happening. So what you can do is, I'll give you my Instagram. You can just message me. And if I find people who are in job and some people who are not in job, if they want to pair up, I'll just help you guys. Right. So this is the first problem, how to decide on a topic. Now, this is what I did. This is a neat trick. What you can do is, if you go on the NICE website and you look for the NICE guidance, you will have this page. I have put in the screenshot. You will have this browse guidance by topic. And what you have to do is, give me a second. Right. So you can see here, condition and diseases. So what you can do is you can figure out which department you are in. So when I did my audit, I was in psychiatry. So I went to the psychiatric group and I searched for the audit from there. But if you go here, you can see, you can have your blood and immune, if you're in hematology or in oncology, if you're in emergency department. So you can have all the topics from here, right? So next, what you can do is, I'm so sorry. Right. So next, what you can do is, once you have your topic from here, you can go inside that guideline. And most of the time, NICE guidelines, they give you audit tools. So it really saves all your efforts of finding standards and making a table. You can just find them ready-made over here. So since I was in psychiatry, I found this guidelines. I just went to the psychiatric department. If you can see, I went to NICE guidance, then conditions, mental health, then bipolar disorder, then I found this guidance. Right. In a similar fashion, you can find any guidance you want in the department where you are working. So I chose this guideline. I looked at the tools that they had, and you can see this complete table was in the guideline. And there are many guidelines which have these audit tables. So how did it help me? It gave me all the criteria. It gave me all the standards. Everything was defined. I just had to collect the data. Right. So you can see what is the difference between criteria and standard. Your criteria is your simple statement, right? So every patient with myocardial infarction should be given aspirin as soon as possible. This is your statement, this is your practice, and this is your criteria. Your standard is, how many patients do you expect to be given aspirin who have myocardial infarction? That you have to define. Here you can see 100%, because you want 100% of patients with myocardial infarction to be given aspirin. Now, you might think that it can always be 100%, but not. Sometimes there are topics where patients are lost to follow-up. So in that case, you cannot put it 100%. You have to put it 80 or 90%. This is basically your goal, what you aim to achieve after the audit. This is exception. You have no exception here, and then you define your term. You can leave the fourth column, and you can just put this criteria, standard and exception. This is exactly how you have to prepare your table. So if you don't know any topic, just go to the NICE guidance, find the guideline, find the topic in this way, or you can prepare your own table. Okay. Sorry, I don't know why it's not working. Okay. Yes. So next is how to tackle lack of supervision. So we don't have any audit departments in our hospitals back home. It is a major setback, because when you will go and talk to your consultant, if you haven't already, you will receive the most common comment that, why do you want to expose what we are not doing over here? Or we don't have a department, or why do you want to do this? You will not have any support. So how do you tackle that? first, what you can do is you should know what is an audit, because your consultants here, they don't have any audits. They don't do audits over here. So if you understand the topic, you can explain it to them that it is just a very simple process, like how I told you in the beginning. And choose a topic that does not require ethical clearance. This is a major thing that your consultants who are here, who don't have any exposure, they will not know this. They will think, okay, you want to do an audit, we will need to get some research approval, committee approval. So you can simply tell them for an audit, you don't require ethical clearance, right? So next, what you can do is don't just go to your consultant and say, oh, sir, I think we need to do an audit or whatever. Make a clear topic, choose a topic, and write a proper protocol that you are going to present this. This will be a patient group, and this is what you need to collect. And if you have already prepared, so what I did with my consultant was I went to my head of department. He immediately shut it down. I went to another consultant, and this time I prepared the complete report. Like, this is the guideline, this will be the patient groups, this is the data I will collect. And this time the consultant was more willing, and he ended up helping me, right? So make them see what is in it for them. You can tell them that it is good for their portfolio. It will look good on the CV, because they don't know about audit. They just think that the more number of publications you have, the better it is, right? So again, if nothing works, you can just use your bargaining skills that it is ultimately good for the department, good for the patient, and ultimately it will improve the service, right? So next is identify the issue. How do you find the topic? Let's say you cannot find the topic you want in the NICE guidelines. So what you can do is you can choose anything which is very simple. I'll give you 3 ideas right here in the next slide. All of you can do it. Audit is not like research that if it's already been done, so you cannot do it. You can do the same topic again and again, and it does not matter if it is a simple topic or a complex one, right? So here are some examples. Suppose your job only involves ward cover. You are just in the ward. So what you can assess is you can assess the demographic details. You can see that the patients you are receiving in the ward on their files or in the computer, if their full name and the hospital number is mentioned or not. This is just a simple audit idea. And if you're in the outpatient department, you can just see if a patient is being seen within 20 minutes of appointment time or not, or anything, whatever is the protocol. Again, and if you have any outpatients and follow-ups, you can check if the patients are followed up as planned. For example, you diagnosed a patient with hypertension and you have asked him to follow up in 6 weeks. Now check if that patient is coming in 6 weeks or not. You can take a group of 100 patients. You can check if only 60 patients are coming for follow-up. This will be another audit. So you can see the topic can be very simple. It can be just a simple demographic or just looking at the patient's notes. That's it. Now you have decided a topic. You need to decide what is the expected standard, right? So you have to browse through the guidelines for that if you don't have your own guidelines. And for example, if you decide to study the time it takes for your department to follow up newly diagnosed hypertensive patients. So now what you need to do is you need to know how much time is the ideal time to follow up. You don't know if it's 4 weeks or 6 weeks. So what you do is you check the NICE guidelines or American Hypertension Association or any guideline, and you look for the follow-up time. You can find in the NICE guideline that it says 6 weeks. Okay, so now you have your standard. You can define your criteria as all patients who are newly diagnosed with hypertension have to be followed up in 6 weeks. So this will become your criteria, right? Now the next step is simple, collect your data. Again, 2 very different things. It can be prospective or retrospective. It depends on the time you have. If you are collecting your first audit cycle with retrospective data, it will save you time. But let's say you just thought of this idea and nobody was recording the follow-up of hypertensive patients. So what you can do, you can just start now. So that becomes your prospective data collection. And if you think you are not in that department, you can take help from your colleagues who are working there, right? This is again a common question that I've been asked. Can I do an audit in another department? Yes, you can. Just talk to the consultant, have your colleague collect the data, right? And then prepare a data extraction form. I know it sounds a fancy term, data extraction form, but it is just the simple data. You can write this age of the patient, name of the patient, patient identifier, if the patient was hypertension, it was newly diagnosed, what was the average follow-up time, I'll show you one of mine at the end, right? And it is very important about the confidentiality. Always ask the patient if you're using the patient identify information. If you're not using patient identify information, if you're just writing, let's say, 40-year-old male without any hospital number or name, then you don't need consent. Right. Now you have collected your data. So the next step is you compare the data against the standard. So your standard here, your criteria here was every newly diagnosed hypertensive patient needs to be followed up in 6 weeks. So what you do is you will look at 100 patients who are newly diagnosed with hypertension. Now, again, it doesn't have to be 100, can be 10, 20, 30. I just chose 100. So you see that out of 100 patients, only 50 patients were followed up in 6 weeks, right? So your standard here, your expected standard was 100%, that all 100 patients should be seen within 6 weeks. But you observe that only 50 patients were observed, right? So this is your data, as simple as that. Now, what you will do is you will think about what happened, why the remaining 50 patients were not followed up, and you will come up against a plan. Maybe the doctors who were prescribing the follow-up, they did not know about the 6 weeks, right? So this is how you can do it. Next is you have to implement the change, right? You know what is missing. You know, maybe the doctors don't know, or maybe the patients did not remember about the follow-up after 6 weeks. So you have to prepare an action plan. You have established how your data is different from your expected guidelines. Now you want to think about how you can bridge the gap. So preparing an action plan is very important. I'll show you the action plan, how I prepared it at the end. An effective action plan is the one that is realistic, timely, and easily actionable, because you will not have an entire year to implement change. So you will have to choose simple action plan, which can be done in few days, right? So you will have to brainstorm for that. Now, after you have implemented a change, then you just have to do the audit. Again, do the same thing which you did previously. Now, again, look at the 100 patients who are newly diagnosed hypertensive patients and look at the follow-up time. This time you will find that out of 100 patients, more than 70, 80, 90, or even 100 patients are being followed up in 6 weeks. So this is your complete audit. Now, this is how you will ultimately make your table, right? You will write the criteria, and then you will write your standards in there. Then you will see 100%. Let's say in your first cycle of audit, you just found for the standard one that out of 30 patients, only 16 patients were actually successful. And then on the next time, you can see 30 out of 30 patients were given the target. So you can write a comment that the target was met. Now see, instead of 30 out of 30, let's say it was 25 out of 30. So 5 patients still did not get follow-up. What do you write in the comment? Target was not met. And then you will have to mention the reason why. Maybe the patients were subsequently found that they are not hypertensive, or they just moved to a different geographical location, they changed their state, location, whatever, right? So you will have to discuss that in the discussion part, why you cannot achieve the 100% target. And it's not a necessity to always have the 100%. It might not be 30 by 30, but it has to be an improvement, right? So previously it was 16 by 13, then it went to 30 by 30. Even if it went from 16 to, let's say, 20 out of 30, it still is an audit. You still did a quality improvement. So this was my table. So what I did was I simply picked this table from the NICE guideline, like I showed you, and I put in my own standards 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I defined the standard 100%, and then the audit one. So I found that in some areas, for example, the consent, all the patients were giving their consent, so it wasn't 100%. I did not have to do anything. But in some cases, the targets were not met, right? So after I implemented change, in order to, again, I completed it, my targets were met. So this is your entire audit report finding. This is how you will prepare your table, which will help you explain everything to your consultant or to your interviewers, right? This is how I collected my data. So I just simply put the age, date, if the consent was taken, all my standards, I just put that, right? Pulse rate, BP, oxygen saturation. It is that simple. I did not do anything which we do in research where we need to analyze data using statistics. Here we don't have to use any statistics. It's simple, 50 patients out of 100, right? So it's simple. Now this is the action plan. like I mentioned, yes. So action plan has to be very actionable. It has to be simple, and it needs to have a set date. So you can see here, you can write your objective, what you're doing, and you have to plan the action, what your action is, then who is going to complete that action, and you have to write the date by when you are expecting it to be completed. And if you need any resources, you can put it. If you see in the third line, in the third part, where I needed to do teaching sessions. So in resources required, I have simply put venue for teaching session, because you need a venue. You have to book some sort of a room where you can provide your teaching sessions. So that will become your resources, right? Okay, right. So if you have any questions, you can put that in chat box. And if you have any further questions, or if you want to be paired up with someone who is doing an audit, so you can directly message me, and my Instagram ID is this. You can take this, the prescribing scalpel, and I'm open for questions now.
Thank you, Apoor, very much for your detailed presentation. I hope that was useful for our attendees. Right, we have one question in the chat box, and please, if anyone has any questions right now, just let us know, and we will get back to you with an answer. So the question that we've got during the presentation was, can you give an example for audit in pediatric patients?
Okay. Yes, so in pediatric patients, yes, what you can do is, the major problem I noticed was that the neonates, when you put in the cannula, they just take it out by themselves. So you put a plaster, you put some sort of a thing that prevents it from doing. So you can just check if the doctors are doing that or not, or nurses. It's a simple topic.
Okay, great, thank you very much. The next question, can students do an audit?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Can students do an audit? Students?
Yes, anywhere do an audit. And the earlier you do it, the more time you will have after completing your undergraduation to work on other things such as research or other things in the portfolio.
Okay, perfect. The next question, is it still valid to do an incomplete audit? Since I'm a student, I don't think I can implement changes. Thank you.
Yes, so two parts. Even if you do an incomplete audit, it's still better than no audit, because you can mention that in your interview, that the reasons why you could not do anything or why it was incomplete. It will still give you more marks than a person who has never done an audit. Now, the second part, since you are a student, it does not mean that you cannot implement change. You can always teach your juniors or seniors. So just think, if you can implement and change, if it's a simple change, I'm sure you will be able to implement it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Apoor. The next question.
Thank you so much.
If I haven't done the initial audit, but my consultant asked me to re-audit for closed loop cycle, can I include that in my CV? Yes,
you can. Any part of the audit, even if you, out of 6 steps, you have only done 1 step, you were still part of an audit. If you do complete 6 steps by yourself, it will give you highest marks in the portfolio. But for your first non-training job, even if you are just a part of it, it will give you points.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next question, how many people can conduct a single audit? Is there any limit?
Yes, good question. I forgot to mention that. Actually, it depends. You can have an audit with 2 people, you can have it with 10 people, but the important part is you need to be able to justify the role of each and every individual. You cannot just put 5 people name in one action plan in just 1 step. If you have 10 actions in one action plan, you can have 10 people for different actions. I hope you get that.
Yeah, okay. Right, the next one, how does one find the reasons for not meeting the set standards or criteria?
Again, when you will start doing an audit, you will simply find the reasons. Most of the time, it's because people don't know about the guidelines. Once you correct it, they will just simply start doing it more often. And if you cannot still find out the reason, just talk to your consultant. Like, ask him, like, sir, why are the patients not being followed up on 6 weeks? So he might tell you that because our OPD runs every 8 weeks, right? So you can simply seek answers from your consultant if you cannot find anything.
Okay, perfect. The next one, any ideas for audit in theater setup or one that can be done soon?
Sorry, in what?
Yeah, in theater setup. I think that means surgery, theater.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So in surgery, what simple audit, which anyone can do is hand washing. Before starting surgery, are you washing it twice? Are you covering your wrist? Are you following all the 8 steps of hand washing? So that is what I have seen everyone do in UK as well when I was doing clinical attachment.
Okay, great. The next question, is it necessary I should follow NICE guidelines for PLUB CV building? Not sure whether that's the relevant question.
I don't, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one. Do I need to print the audit table in a paper and get it signed by my consultant?
It's up to you and your consultant. You can just, I prepared a Word file and I got it signed digitally. If your consultant feels more comfortable in signing on paper, then I don't think it will be hard to get a printout.
Yeah, that makes sense. Great. The next question, how can I print the proof that I did an audit? Did I need only signature of a consultant?
Yes, so if you have a guiding consultant and you just mention on the letterhead, it should be a letterhead paper. There should be a name of the organization. And then you just mention about your role in the audit, get it signed, get it stamped by your consultant's official stamp, mention his details like his email address, and you can write if you want to ask more, you can always message me on my email if you want confirmation. So that is legit. Okay,
perfect. Right, the next question, is it better to conduct an audit with a group or individually, and how would this affect the scores?
Sorry, can you repeat that? Is it better to do an audit with?
Yes, an audit with a group of people or just on your own?
Okay. Yes, so it does not matter as long as you can justify the role. So I guess if you can pick up a big audit, do it with 20 people even. But you just have to remember, you have to define the role of each and every person. You cannot be like, okay, so 20 people were involved in this audit. That will not make sense. You have to define. So person 1 did this, second person did this, and so on and so on. Otherwise, the marks do not change. All 20 will get equal marks if you can justify.
Okay, great. Right, the next question is audit a must?
Yeah, now the thing is, many of my friends got the job and got into training even without an audit. But if you have an audit, it will increase your chances significantly. So the thing becomes, you will always find people who will get their job without any research, without any teaching, but that is the exception. That is not the norm. You must know that the competition is very high these days, and you should give yourself the best chance because you have already put in so much work in taking lab exams, getting GMC, the English exam, and these things are very simple and it will incredibly boost your CV.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. The next question, do journals publish audits?
Yes, they do. There are many audits. Even there is one from BMJ, which publishes audits. But the thing with audits is, even if you don't get it published, you can still get full marks in any portfolio. So if you just want to publish it, you can, but that is not a necessity, or it will not increase your marks.
Yeah, okay, perfect. The next question, can someone do audit if they're doing clinical attachment without GMC registration in the UK?
Yes, you can. Many of my friends did their audits in UK when they were on attachments. What you can do is go to your consultant on the first day of your attachment, because you need to spend some time on audits. You cannot just go on the last day of attachment and say, like, I want to be part. Go on the first day, go to your consultant, ask them, are there any open audit projects that I can help with? Then they will refer you to any of the senior registrars who generally manage the audit, and they will help you all the way.
Yes, I agree. When I was doing my clinical attachment without GMC registration some time ago, I was suggested that I could do an audit. So it's absolutely fine. It's a very common thing that a consultant would even ask you to do an audit, because they know that doing an audit is improving your CV and it gives you so many, benefits for the future, for your future career. Right.
Yes.
So the next question. Can I do an audit in a small government hospitals in India, like primary health centers or taluka hospitals? We have a compulsory rural service.
Yes, you can do it in the small rural primary care setups. And of course, you will, if you have any senior, for example, any CMO or chief medical officer, you can take his evidence. And if not, you can do present your audit report, and you can just do a reflection that you did it by yourself. Suppose, because in India, there are many centers which are run by a single person. I think you're mentioning that. So basically your question is, if you don't have any seniors, if you're the only person working, how do you get the evidence signed? It is simple. You just put an audit report, and when you're explaining it during your interview, you can mention that I was the single person. So I did this audit to improve my own service. That will actually make more impact.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Apoor, for answering our questions. We still have a couple more left. There is a question about GMC. Does GMC give the same marks for portfolio to all people that are involved in audit?
Oh, GMC does not give any marks for audits. GMC is just, they will just give you registration. These are for your non-training and training jobs.
Right. Perfect. The next question, for the specialty like radiology, do you have any tips or topics for audit that can be chosen?
For radiology, okay. I guess what you can do is you can look at the release time of reports in emergency department. For example, after a trauma case, head trauma, NICE guidelines suggest that you have to do the CT scan within 1 hour if there are some indications. So you can look at that. If you're in the radiology department, you can look at if the CTs for those head traumas are getting released in 1 hour or not. It's a great topic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree. So the next question is, I was asked to perform a clinical audit on IPC level in my facility. Are there any tips to how to do it?
I'm not sure what is IPC.
Yes, so the question was from Hayam. Hayam, if you could just specify what you meant by IPC, we will be able to give you more information on that. Okay, well, we're waiting for Hayam to answer. We have, oh yeah, yes, we got it. IPC is infection prevention and control. Okay, so
so can you please repeat the question, sorry?
Yeah, I was asked to perform a clinical audit on infection prevention and control in my facility. Are there any tips on how to perform it?
Yes, so basically with the topic, you can choose any topic, like, are you washing hands? Are you sanitizing your hands between every patient? Those are part of infection protocol. And regarding how to prepare the audit report, I hope you watched the webinar. You can just simply do it in this way. Choose a simple topic. That will be my biggest advice to everyone. Choose a very simple topic. Don't let your ego come in between that. It's just simple hand washing, because it does not matter. You just need to learn how to do an audit. You can go to the complex ones very easily once you learn how to do it. So choose simple topics, simple action plan, keep it simple.
Okay, great. Great. The next question is it compulsory to follow UK guidelines, or can we follow other countries' guidelines?
Yes, you can follow any guideline, even your own hospital's guideline, even if they are not the standard guideline, because the principle behind doing audit is to know the process of doing audit, that you know if you're given in any guideline that you can perform it in your department. So that is a transferable skill, doing an audit, and it does not matter what guideline you are using.
Okay, great, thank you. I believe that we answered. Oh no, yeah, we have another one. Right. The question is, I have done something similar in a group project for which we operated the report later, but never got it signed by consultant. Is it enough to mention it in CV, or have I to get the proof of doing it? Do they want to actually see the signed letter by a consultant?
You can mention it. See, the great thing about UK is even if you don't have evidence, there's a thing called reflection. So if you don't have a certificate, you can simply write about your experience. You can present your audit report and it will work if you are able to justify that. Like if they will ask a question about your audit, any part, if you're able to answer that, they will believe you.
Yeah, okay, great. Right, the next question, does it make any sense to conduct more than one audit? Does it change the scores?
Yes and no, it depends. Mm-hmm. So for example, there are some specialties where you just need one audit. It can be anything. So let's say you have done an audit in medicine, right? So you don't need to do any more audits. You will get full marks. But if you do decide to come to surgery, this year they changed the portfolio and now it has to be a surgically themed audit. So in this case, you will again have to do another audit. So I guess one audit is fine. Just look at the specialty, the portfolio criteria, and see if you need to do any more.
Okay, great. Thank you. There is one question. Could you please sum up or just summarize the differences between audit and a quality improvement project?
Yes. So basically audit is a subtype of quality improvement project. Anything which is improving the quality of your hospital is a QIP, basically. But they have to be more specifically designed using a PDSA cycle, and there's a lot of things going on. You can read more about that. Just remember, audit is a type of quality improvement project. There are other types of quality improvement projects, for example, service evaluation, or if you're putting out new research, new technology. So that's it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Apur, so much.
Thank you.
Okay, if anyone have any questions still left, we have a lot of thank you in the chat box. So thank you, Apur. I'm just...
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you guys for your feedback. If you have any questions left, just let us know. If not, we will wrap up the session. If none of you is having...
Yeah, you can always text me directly. I have given my handle. You can text me. I'll try to pair you guys up if possible.
Thank you all. So the recording will be available on truelink.com, and you will be able to see it in a couple of days for free as many times as you want. So you just need to sign up to the website and go to the rewards section in the right corner of your screen, and you will be able to get access to all the webinars that we've hosted. And I believe that's up to 30 and on a variety of different topics. So please feel free to sign up to the platform and get access to all the webinars for free. You're just welcome to do that. Okay, I believe we don't have that many questions left. We don't have any questions left, actually.
All right.
So I just want to thank...
Great.
Just want to thank Apur for your time and for the great presentation and answering all the questions that we've got in the chat box. And
thank you.
I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and we hope that the webinar was useful. And if you have any questions, just feel free to send us a message or contact us on social media. And good luck with your Saturday plans. Hope to see you again at our next webinars. The next one is next Saturday, actually, and we will be discussing very important topics about NHS complaints and coroner's inquests, which is a must-know thing for all IMGs who are joining the NHS. So please go to our social media. You'll be able to see the advertisement of the event. All our events are free. They all are beneficial for IMGs joining the NHS or who are working in the NHS already. So feel free to sign up, and if you have any questions, as always, we are happy to answer them on our social media, and if you send us an email, we will answer that too. So thank you again, Apur, for your time and for your presentation. We wish you best of luck in your job, and see you soon again, everyone. Good luck with your plans, and bye.